Imagine logging into your computer just for a standard afternoon of work. You fire up a new piece of software to sort through some data, and, well, by the time you go to grab a coffee, you've accidentally spent your company's entire software budget for the month.
Yeah, just burn right through it in a single sitting.
Right. Welcome to the new reality of artificial intelligence. I mean, the honeymoon phase where everything felt like this free, magical sandbox, it is officially over.
It really is. And, it's not just the financial budgets that are breaking right now. We're watching the underlying assumptions about how we build, how we sell, and how we regulate this technology just completely shatter in real time.
Exactly. So it is Wednesday, June 3, 2026, and today we are diving into an infrastructure build-out and a cost crisis that really defies historical comparison. So welcome to today's deep dive. I am so glad you're here with us.
It is great to be here. I mean, the sheer velocity of the news cycle this week is it's something else.
It really is wild. Today, our journey is guided by the latest source material from the Tech Reader AI Digest, written by Aaron Rose. And man, Aaron has handed us an absolute blockbuster of a digest today.
Oh, for sure. It's a heavy one.
Yeah. We're going to look at three massive colliding pillars of the AI industry. First, the unprecedented, basically history-making capital raises funding the physical architecture.
Right, the hardware side.
Yeah. And then second, the shocking friction-heavy reality of what it actually costs to use this technology in the real world. And finally, we're looking at a high-stakes, behind-closed-doors political chess game over government regulation.
So it's the macro cost, the micro cost, and, the geopolitical fallout, all just crashing into each other simultaneously.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start at the macro level. Alphabet just announced an equity capital raise, and the final priced offering is, wait for it, $84.75 billion.
Yeah, it's a staggering number.
But wait, I have to stop right there and play devil's advocate for a second. Alphabet literally prints money. I mean, they have tens of billions of dollars in free cash flow generated by their search engine every single quarter.
They do.
So why on earth would a company that rich dilute its own stock to raise $84 billion? Why not just issue debt like a normal corporation or, just pay out of pocket?
Well, because we are dealing with numbers that have outgrown even the most profitable business models in human history.
Wait, really?
Yeah. To understand why they need to go to the public equity markets, you have to look at their updated full-year capital expenditure guidance.
Okay, lay it on me.
So Alphabet's CapEx, the money they were spending purely on physical assets, meaning data centers, cooling systems, and specialized silicon chips, is projected to hit $190 billion this year alone.
$190 billion in a single year.
Yeah. For context, Amazon's all-time record year for capital expenditure was under $80 billion. Microsoft's guidance for this very year, 2026, is around $80 billion.
Oh, wow. So Alphabet is planning to spend more than double that.
Exactly. Their native cash flow, as massive as it is, it simply cannot cover a $190 billion server bill. Issuing that much debt would completely crush their balance sheet, so they have to pass the hat to the public markets.
And let's break down the mechanics of how you even collect $84 billion, because you don't just open a GoFundMe for that.
No, definitely not.
They did it in three distinct buckets. First, a $30 billion underwritten public offering, and this includes Class A and Class C stock, plus mandatory convertible preferred stock.
Which is, it's a brilliant, if really aggressive financial instrument.
How so?
Well, mandatory convertible preferred stock basically means investors are guaranteed a dividend payout now, but they are legally required to convert those shares into standard equity later.
Got it.
Right, so Alphabet gets a massive injection of cash up front without taking on permanent debt, but at the cost of future shareholder dilution.
That makes sense. Then there is a $40 billion at-the-market program starting in Q3. And for those who don't live and breathe finance, an at-the-market program means Alphabet is going to be quietly, continuously selling new shares into the daily trading volume of the stock market.
Yeah, they are slowly diluting their existing shareholders day by day, literally just to pay for computer chips.
It's crazy. And finally, there is a $10 billion private placement. And we have to talk about who wrote that check.
Yeah, that would be Berkshire Hathaway. Specifically, Greg Abel, Warren Buffett's successor as CEO.
It's just huge.
It is. He split that $10 billion evenly between Class A and Class C shares. And remember, Berkshire had already been building a position in Alphabet since the third quarter of 2025.
Right.
So this new check brings their total commitment to roughly $30 billion.
What's fascinating here is what that specific check signals to the rest of the market. I mean, Aaron Rose's digest makes a really crucial point. Greg Abel writing a $10 billion check during a dip in Alphabet stock price, that is not a momentum trade.
No, Berkshire doesn't do momentum trading.
Exactly.
It is a long-duration conviction bet from arguably the most conservative, consequential capital allocator in the market today. Abel looked at a $190 billion spending plan and effectively validated it.
But how does spending $190 billion on servers actually translate into a return on investment? I mean, how do they make that back?
Well, it comes down to a concept called the circular infrastructure economy.
Okay.
In this new paradigm, you invest capital to build the compute. You use that compute to generate revenue, and because the models are scaling so rapidly, you have to immediately reinvest every single dollar of that revenue back into more compute just to stay competitive.
So it's just a constant loop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The loop is getting so massive that the tech giants need the public equity markets to fuel it. And Alphabet just proved that institutional investors will say yes, even to an $85 billion dilution.
Wow.
It is a massive market signal that the AI infrastructure build-out is accelerating, not slowing down.
Okay, so if it cost $190 billion just to buy the physical servers, who actually pays for that when the bill comes due? Like, how does that macro cost trickle down to the person sitting at the keyboard?
Yeah, that's the real question.
That brings us to our second pillar. Let's pivot to the micro cost, specifically the chaos unfolding at Microsoft Build Day 2 in San Francisco.
This is where the physical reality of that $190 billion crashes into the daily reality of software development.
Right. So Satya Nadella gives his big keynote talking about Azure AI Foundry and Windows Agent development, all these grand visions, right?
Sure.
But meanwhile, the developer community is having an absolute meltdown on GitHub forums over Copilot token billing. Developers are reporting that a single agentic session is burning through $30 to $40 in credits.
And just to put that in perspective, $30 to $40 was historically the cost of an entire month's Pro subscription.
Yes.
They are burning a monthly budget in a single afternoon.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We need to explain why this is happening, because it represents a total paradigm shift in how software works.
That's right.
Think of a standard AI chatbot, like asking a chef for a recipe. You make one request, the chef hands you a piece of paper. It requires 1 unit of brain power.
Right.
But an agentic AI session is completely different. It's like telling that chef to go to the grocery store, figure out what's in season, buy the ingredients, cook a 5-course meal, and then clean the kitchen.
That is a perfect analogy. Agentic AI loops. You give the system a complex goal, and it autonomously reasons, writes code, tests that code, finds an error, rewrites it, and executes multiple steps.
And every single time it loops, it consumed compute power. It consumes tokens.
Exactly.
And Microsoft is now charging for those tokens. It's like going to your favorite all-you-can-eat buffet, handing them $20 at the door, and then midway through your meal, the waiter says, well, actually, we're charging you $5 for every time you chew.
Yeah, which is why GitHub is in full damage control right now. They are offering a $0 hard cap so developers don't accidentally bankrupt themselves.
I mean, they had to do something.
Right. They've also elevated enterprise allocations through September 1st as a temporary Band-Aid. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are witnessing is the messy, painful death of the flat rate era for frontier AI.
Because flat-rate monthly subscriptions simply cannot cover the compute cost of a machine that loops autonomously.
Precisely. And this is terrifying enterprise procurement teams.
I bet.
Aaron Rose notes that the Copilot Super app, which, combines chat, co-work, and code interfaces into one platform, has a very aggressive summer release timeline.
Right.
The CFOs and procurement teams absolutely require visible, legible cost metering. They cannot tolerate a pilot blowout where a few overly ambitious developers spiral a company's software costs out of control in 48 hours.
Now, if enterprise budgets are hitting a wall because the software is too expensive to run, how is Microsoft going to make money on the consumer side, where people don't have corporate credit cards?
That is the big problem.
Well, As if the cost wasn't enough to make a CFO sweat, there is a leaked internal document from Build Day 2 regarding a consumer-facing AI assistant called Microsoft Scout.
Yeah, this leak is huge.
And the internal framing explicitly states it is designed to feel, quote, addictive before it becomes more agentic.
And that specific wording has drawn immediate, heavy scrutiny from the tech press.
I mean, we've spent the last decade dealing with the societal fallout of addictive social media algorithms, and now we have AI tools, which are already incredibly powerful, being deliberately engineered for addiction.
It is a critical distinction, and Aaron's Digest zeroes in on it perfectly. There is a massive ethical and regulatory canyon between designing a product to be indispensable through genuine utility, meaning it actually makes your workflow better or your life easier, versus designing it to be indispensable through psychological dependency mechanics.
Genuine utility versus manipulation.
Yes. And the AI industry is going to be forced to have this conversation publicly over the next year. Microsoft accidentally pulled that timeline forward with this leak.
Wow.
Procurement teams and government regulators are going to be asking about this distinction. The companies that figure out how to provide immense value without relying on manipulative dependency loops are the ones who will survive when the regulatory hammer falls.
And when tech giants are spending unprecedented billions and their consumer products are leaking documents about engineered addiction, you better believe the government is going to step in.
Oh, absolutely.
That brings us to our third pillar today, government regulation. But the way this regulation actually happened is basically a masterclass in backdoor leverage.
It really is.
Now, really quickly, I want to make something explicitly clear to you, our listener. In this deep dive, we do not take political sides. Left, right, center, we are not endorsing any political viewpoint. We are strictly here to impartially analyze the factual mechanics of how this specific policy was negotiated according to the sources provided.
Right. And objectively speaking, the sequence of events here is just fascinating.
Let's look at the timeline. 12 days ago, President Trump completely pulled back a nearly finalized draft of an AI executive order. Why? Because of late-night phone calls from tech billionaires, specifically Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and David Sacks.
But then fast forward to Tuesday, June 2nd, and the president signs the order anyway.
Right. It's titled the Promoting Advanced Artificial Intelligence Innovation and Security Executive Order. But he signs it in a private ceremony. No tech CEOs present. No massive photo op.
So the obvious question is, what actually changed in those 12 days? Like, what leverage did the tech industry have?
The leverage was their willingness to walk away. The core mechanism of the original draft that the industry hated was a 90-day review window for what the government calls covered frontier models.
Which is a long time in tech.
Exactly. The tech industry pushed back hard, essentially threatening to withhold cooperation or slow down domestic innovation if they were bogged down in 3 months of red tape before every single release. They demanded a 14-day window.
And the final signed order.
A 30-day voluntary review window. It landed in the middle. Furthermore, David Sacks and NEC Deputy Director Ryan Bash got explicit language added, ensuring there is no mandatory licensing or pre-clearance requirement. The review is purely voluntary.
Wow.
It is the ultimate irony of the art of the deal. The tech billionaires used their access to walk away from the table, they killed the 90-day window, and they avoided mandatory licensing.
This raises an important question, though. Who actually won this negotiation? Aaron Rose makes a brilliant observation here. The tech industry got the most egregious regulatory language softened. But the White House quietly got almost everything else it needed permanently placed on the books without the industry being in the room to claim a political victory.
Let's break down what the government actually secured in this order, because it's a lot.
They established the 30-day window for the government to access covered models before trusted partners get them. They gave the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security a 30-day mandate to prioritize AI cyber defense.
Right.
They directed the Treasury to set up an AI cybersecurity clearinghouse to coordinate vulnerability patching across the financial sector. And crucially, the order explicitly directs the Attorney General to prioritize prosecuting AI-enabled cybercrimes like wire fraud and identity theft.
So the billionaires got the timeline shortened, but the administration stood up a massive new enforcement and cybersecurity apparatus.
Exactly.
But there's one more detail buried in the coverage of this executive order that we just cannot gloss over. The Department of Defense had already labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk, and they were actively trying to distance themselves from Anthropic's frontier models.
Yeah, that part is wild.
Wait, Anthropic? They just raised that massive $30 billion round. Why is the military pulling away from one of the most well-funded labs on Earth?
It surfaces around something that Digest calls the mythos model classification.
What does that mean mechanically? I mean, how is a language model a supply chain risk? We're not talking about a delayed boat full of silicon chips here.
Exactly. We are talking about the architecture of the intelligence itself. While Anthropic hasn't issued an official response, the implication of the mythos classification is profound.
Okay, tell me more.
When the Department of Defense labels a major frontier AI lab a supply chain risk, it signals deep underlying national security concerns regarding how these models are built, how they are trained, or, how they are secured from foreign adversaries.
Oh, wow.
It implies that a flaw or vulnerability in the training data or the model's weights could be exploited at a national level.
That is heavy. It's a stark reminder that we aren't just talking about enterprise software anymore. We are talking about the military-industrial complex viewing certain AI infrastructure as a fundamental vulnerability.
Yeah, the stakes are just incredibly high now.
Okay, to show you just how relentless the pace of this ecosystem is right now, outside of those three massive stories, let's jump into some quick hits. These are stories that a decade ago would have been the biggest tech news of the year. Today, they're just bullet points.
The velocity is staggering. First up, Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, is just 5 days away on June 8th.
I can't wait for that.
The gni.apple.com subdomain is still standing news, meaning the entire industry is basically holding its breath to see how Apple natively integrates generative AI across 1 billion iPhones.
Meanwhile, in the aerospace sector, SpaceX's new AI venture SpaceX AI begins its S1 Roadshow tomorrow. And for context, an S1 Roadshow is when a company pitches its financials to massive institutional investors right before going public.
And their target valuation.
Their target valuation for a late June listing is $1.75 trillion. Trillion with a T.
That is just incomprehensible. Over in the developer space, OpenAI Codex is introducing plugins that essentially enable non-developers to build entire applications and dashboards.
Wow.
The technical barrier to entry for coding is basically vanishing overnight. Though, notably, there are still no updates on OpenAI's own S1. Their September listing target remains standing news.
And finally, a massive data point regarding the global arms race. DeepSeek and other Chinese models like Alibaba Quinn and Z.A now make up 61% of all Open Router developer API traffic.
That's a huge shift.
It really is. Mechanically, Open Router is a hub where developers go to access different AI models to power their apps. The fact that developers worldwide are choosing Chinese models for 61% of their traffic shows how incredibly fast the balance of global compute power is shifting.
It is a stark reminder that Silicon Valley does not have a monopoly on this future.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive looking at a financial paradigm shift. And when you connect these three main pillars, the picture becomes crystal clear.
It really does.
Alphabet is committing to a historic $190 billion capital expenditure plan and an $85 billion equity raise. Microsoft is colliding with the friction-heavy reality of charging developers $40 for a single afternoon of agentic AI. And a backdoor executive order has quietly established federal cybercrime priorities and national security review windows. AI is no longer a fun, abstract sandbox. It is a heavily regulated, massively expensive utility.
Absolutely.
It requires the deepest pockets in human history to build. It is shockingly expensive to operate, and governments are treating it as critical infrastructure.
Which fundamentally changes our relationship with the concept of intelligence itself. And it leaves us with a lingering, provocative question to consider.
Let's hear it.
If the physical infrastructure required to build and train frontier AI costs $190 billion a year, and if the micro cost to simply use an autonomous agentic session is $40 a pop, well, are we hurtling toward a future where intelligence is no longer a democratized, accessible tool for everyone?
Are we moving toward a reality where high-level agentic AI is a luxury good, a premium tier of cognitive power that only the wealthiest enterprises and the wealthiest individuals can actually afford to use? A paywall on intelligence itself.
It is a staggering thought to leave you with.
Yeah. It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We've traversed a lot of complex terrain today, from the macroeconomics of Berkshire Hathaway to the microeconomics of token billing, all the way to the halls of the White House. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.